credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood.
With me today is Zach Shankin, a lifetime athlete turned biomedical engineer and recent founder of the Vitruvian Man, which is a program focused on helping men become the most confident, fit, and high-performing versions of themselves. Zach, welcome to the Weekly Prophet. Really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jack. I'm super excited. I'm glad that our paths crossed. I think it was a bit of serendipity involved for sure. Like I said, I'm trying to build out that first group of guys, or that next group of guys for my program, and you got caught in the fray of the cold reach outs, and so it was cool to kind of link that way. And I think it's not a happenstance that we met.
Yeah, no, not one bit. And it's kind of the beauty of outreach, and honestly that's a topic we can hit on that I didn't even knock on. But like, if you're intentional with your outreach, you're gonna have more success, and you're gonna create like way longer opportunities. I've done a lot of interviews through people outreaching to me in that kind of sense, and then me also outreaching to them. And frankly, for the long term, it's not the worst case. Those are often the people that come back around, and we do deals or similar. Like, you know, we find out a lot in these interviews on how you can provide value, and so it's kind of natural, which is cool. And I think it's an underrated part of the podcast space, which we're going to talk about later. But speaking of goals, you know, I think my big thing with this podcast is we're going to go through the college experience. Obviously, as we kind of mentioned in the intro, you've kind of done the whole ring. I mean, talk about college experience, engineer of all stars, you know, sports. We'll talk about lacrosse, and now embarking on this, you know, this entrepreneurial journey while working, you know, kind of within that. So let's kind of start there. What was your college experience like, you know, at Georgia Tech?
Yeah. So, gosh, I guess I'll wind the clock back. I took 5 years to graduate. I studied biomedical engineering. So, it's funny. I always have to kind of caveat that when I share that I took 5 years to graduate college, because most people think I was just sticking around when they go to like other universities, but it's pretty common at Georgia Tech, just given like internships and stuff like that. So for the audience just now meeting me, I promise I'm not an idiot, but, going back freshman year, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, like a suburb of. So it was kind of approaching college, not totally knowing what I wanted to do, but I was always good at math and science. Engineering was kind of a broad fit for that. I came in as a mechanical engineer. So I wanted to go to Stanford. Didn't work out. I think it statistically doesn't work out for most people. So I ended up going to Georgia Tech, which honestly, I describe that as like the best thing that never happened to me, because I got to be close to home, still with my family and everything, but be exposed to a ton of high-performing people, and really like push myself to grow. I think it's a super, what I would say is probably in the United States and maybe the world, like top 3 rigor universities is just hard. So like learning to just be able to grind was a huge value grab from the university. So I came in mechanical engineering, you know, played lacrosse through high school, had no idea I was going to play in college. And then I finished my last game as a senior, and I was like, okay, I don't want to stop yet. So walked onto the team of our recruiting class. There were 17 of us, and only 2 of us were walk-ons. So that was pretty cool. Definitely had to earn my stripes. I mean, I rode Pine for the first 2.5, 3 years. But definitely controlling what I could control. I was never growing up the best athlete, and that's part of, you know, my journey to self-development was like, I was never like gifted. I wasn't one of those kids that was blessed from God. I was like a chubbier kid growing up. Like I was good at sport, like the coordination part of sports, like, and I had the like mindset and the brain behind it, but I was never the kid that was going to have like a freak vertical or like fast 40. So I really had to like work on myself and learn a lot about being in the gym. So coming in through college, kids are faster, bigger, stronger. So I wanted to pick up training, did a lot of that on my own. And because tech is, it's not an NCAA program, it's MCLA, which is club. We have no proper structured like weight training program, trainers, any of that stuff. So it's really up to you to become a better athlete. So that there's, you know, pros and cons to that, but the pro is that I had to learn everything for myself. And part of my transition from mechanical engineering into eventually biomedical is that I love the human body. I think it's super fascinating. Performance is interesting to me, nutrition, all of it. because I originally came to it trying to figure out how I can be a better athlete. And then also just the learning so much about it opens up a whole world. And so I ended up switching to biomedical. Other stuff I was involved in. I was also involved in Greek life, which every university, I'm sure people have their own kind of thing. Yeah. The thing that comes to mind when they think of Greek life, like the stuff portrayed in movies. And I think tech has some of that for sure. I don't think that we were degeneracy free. However, right. Like down the hall from you, kids might be getting after it on a Thursday night, but then the next day they wake up and they go have an interview with like SpaceX or Tesla or like.
Was your
Apple.
Fraternity made up of a lot of guys studying similar stuff to you?
So I was one of like 4 biomedical engineers. It's a smaller-ish major on campus, but I'd say most of the guys in the house, I mean, like there's a big section that were like business students, and then Georgia Tech is known for industrial engineering specifically, which is kind of like supply chain logistics stuff. It's like the #1 program in the world for like 30 years. So there were a bunch of guys that studied that. And then from there kind of trickled down computer science, mechanical engineering. But a lot of people were like very academically focused. And we were, for my time on campus, and obviously everyone's got to self-report this, so you can kind of take it with a grain of salt, but we were like one of the top houses, the largest house on campus. And I was actually able to serve in some leadership positions, eventually was the president of that fraternity before graduating. So a lot of unique opportunities in that sense, but college was a good time, man.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about the balance with that because I think a lot of my audience is in that 18 to 22. Was that a big thing for you? If I'm going to join a fraternity, I'm looking for these types of people that have similar goals, or did it just kind of naturally happen?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And the balance thing was something that the first 2 years of college I had to get better at. Came from a small private high school. I graduated with 90 kids. Definitely the top kind of performer at that school, one of the top performers. So you go from being the big fish in the small pond to like, all right, you're in a big pond. Every kid here is wicked smart. Like you're not special anymore.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of shit to do. So, you're on, like you have practice at 6 a.m. You got to take care of that. And then you got to go, especially your first semester, you're going through pledgeship and all this stuff, right? So I was a busy kid, and learning how to balance all that was important. An additional unique thing about myself was I came into college having never drank alcohol and wanting and continuing to be sober for my first 2 years of college. And so that doesn't necessarily mesh well with the fraternity environment, at least upon first glance. So when I was rushing around, I was pretty intentional, like verbalizing that and saying like, is that going to be accepted here? And the house that I ended up at, it was completely accepted. I actually met during my recruiting process, older guys that were still sober. And so I felt like pretty accepted through that. And so I think there was an alignment of at least kind of like standards where like I was going to do my thing, not a judgment pass on anyone else, but like I didn't want to drink. So I didn't want people to pressure me to do so. And it was a good fit in that sense. So I think there was like a alignment there with at least like boundaries. And then from there, I couldn't have been surrounded by a better group of like high quality, high character guys. I think a lot of it was, kind of the divine, the universe, like you put yourself out there and then it reflects back to you what you want to see. But yeah, there was a little bit of intention for sure.
Yeah, no, cool. That's really important because I think eliminating that fear that it's not okay to like think like that at a young age. I think that's something I struggled with. I had success at a young age with the business. And like when I came into college, it was like, those things are like, I learned into it that those things are more accepted than better hidden. Like you're just not really yourself. So when you get to the environment, like, no, this is the point. Like this is what you're paying for. Like show that. And I was like, okay, well, if you don't show that, then nobody's going to know. But it's so funny. And then of course I see better success as soon as I'm more open with the business, bring the podcast back. Like no shit, the last 2 years were like well in there. So yeah, it's very interesting. Now what are you most excited about right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll kind of answer it twofold. So I'm currently working as like my day job is a biomedical engineer. And, it's paying the bills, but I definitely see it as a means to an end to try to build what I'm working on with the Vitruvian Man program. So I think that is definitely what I'm most excited about. And for those that are just now getting to hear, I'll give the little brief description, but basically it's a 12-week self-mastery course for intellectually curious and driven men to become the best version of themselves alongside other men doing it the same. And so I've kind of created what I wish I had a decade ago when I was that chubby, insecure little kid trying to figure it out, not only from the fitness perspective, just trying to be the best, create the best body for yourself, a confident version that you can look in the mirror and be proud of. But more than that, when you start building yourself up physically, alongside that has to come a lot of like mindset changes and viewing yourself and also the world differently. So it's kind of like a holistic program in that sense, nurturing mind, body, and spirit. And it's been really amazing to build out. I love the content generation. I love sharing. These kind of conversations only came of me creating it. So it's been an amazing time. And so that's probably what I'm most excited about right now, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Now, what's the best part of that process been, you'd say?
Good question. I think, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So being able to see the business success, right? Like for me, it's exciting to see the potential of the on-ramp to like the rest of my life, like a life that I've designed for myself and also in a way that is helping other people. I think when I was really little, I like, this is a niche memory, but like when I was in 6th grade, they like gave us these pieces of paper. You're supposed to write out like what you wanted to look like, what you wanted to be when you grew up. But, when you graduate high school, list all these things out. And so it was like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I just wrote change the world. And I think a lot of people have that kind of aspiration, but it's coming a lot more clear to me that the way that I'll be able to do that is to help individual people. I think by helping people change their own life, you are changing the world, because you have no idea the effect that you're having on people, whether it's one or thousands or tens of thousands or millions. And right now, audience is small, platform is small, but it's in the building stages, right? Like it's accruing all this content, building the on-ramp, proving that like I have something positive to share with the world. And if you pair it with positive intention the whole time, I'm excited to see what it looks like in the long term. So like helping the guys right now in my program, and even just the positive feedback I get from my podcast and all that stuff, it really brings a smile to my face, because even if it is small, it is meaningful. And so,
right. Yeah, no, that's sick. I definitely feel that. I think just in general, like the one thing I prevented myself from making content a lot, and I think a lot of creators like kind of struggle with this, like guys, especially that are building businesses but aren't making content. Like, I think there becomes a period where like you have a lot of value that you've learned from figuring it out like that.
Yeah.
And the exponential value you can give when you start sharing it, right? Like, and I think eliminating that wall really opens a lot of opportunities, and opportunities that didn't exist 20 years ago, right? Like you couldn't share how intelligent or how much you're learning and like relate to people on the scale that you can relate to now. And yeah, like it's cool that you can put it in the form of a course, and, kind of getting into that. What made you want to start like a course? Was it?
Yeah. I definitely, I know we talked offline a little bit about kind of this on like how I discovered it in the first place, but
right.
I'll give a shout out to Arlen and Adam Horowitz.
Yeah.
But both of those guys co-created what is known as Course Builder. It's essentially a course for how you produce courses. And I've been following Arlen for a long time, wasn't familiar with Adam, but kind of learned about him through Arlen. And I made the investment coming up on my senior year, end of my senior year of college. I knew I wanted to make money. I knew I didn't have a ton of capital leverage. So I just was looking all over the place, and also being very reflective on like, what is my purpose? Like, what value can I provide to the world? Well, I spent the last 10 years like really fascinated about how to become a better version of me. And all these lessons, all the money I've spent, all the time, like reading the shitty books, watching the bad podcasts, like all the lessons and the trip ups, if I could provide something to someone where they can get the fast track, the summary, the ability to forego all those lessons. And then additionally, I think a huge aspect of the course is the community to do it. I think you've experienced it. Like when you start putting yourself out there, whether it's just wanting to be a better version of yourself or actually putting content out there, people will project their insecurity of like not being a better version of themselves onto you. Like, what do you mean you're going to do that, bro? Like, you're doing affirmation statements, or just come out with us. Like, why do you need to stretch before bed? Like all this shit. And like, they just don't have the same goals. That's fine. It's not, but it sucks that they put all that negativity onto you. And so doing it alone is really hard. I had to do it alone. A lot of people do it alone. And so creating a community was a huge part of that. So Course Builder is the short answer to what you're saying. I was kind of exposed to the course, I guess, model. And then that mentorship and their program specifically taught me the X's and O's of like how to try to put it together on the back end. And then since then, it's just been off to the races. They promoted something like that you alluded to, fast action, just like put content out. Like my first podcast was legitimately like threw the AirPods in, went to a quiet room, locked the door, and just talked. And then the second one was just like that. And then I bought the mic on Amazon, and like you start like incrementally getting better, like film with the iPhone, like you just take the small steps and keep moving forward. Yeah. But the important thing is you consistently do it.
Yeah. No, and I think there comes a time where like there's so many like the levels to it is really what, when you get deep into the consistency, and I've been talking about this a lot in the other podcast, is like how much it takes to do it for 3 weeks and then 3 months, but then 6 months comes around. Like it's totally different, and you don't know unless you actually do it. That's what keeps me going, is like, okay, if I do this for 6 months, I'll be ready to do it for 8 months, right? Like I can just consistently kind of not at it. But I think the mentorship's important. I like how that comes up in this show a lot. Anyone that you do try to kind of emulate, or you say you pull some aspects of your style from?
Gosh, I mean, stylistically, I think I'm just trying to be myself. I think that is part of the sharing. Like I don't want to be inauthentic. I don't think that there's a style I'm trying to recreate in any of this. But as far as like business inspiration, I think just looking at any of the same people that have done what I want to do, that's a big thing to me. I mean, I've had to teach myself sales. So Alex Hormozy, I'm just like consuming his content voraciously. I have his book on my desk. Like he's putting out so much value on sales specifically. And then, Adam and Arlen, having access to them even on calls, that's amazing. Right? Like they've made tons of money in the course space. They can teach me how to do it. Arlen also provides a ton of value. His product is also men specific like my own. So we share a little bit of commonality in that sense. And then just all these kind of different guys. I'm trying to follow as many more people of the genre and the space as I can. And then just remove, whether it's muting or unfollowing, just the people that aren't where I want to be. I heard like a good, I think it was a Alex Hormozy thing on Instagram this morning, actually, where he was like, the people that are shit talking you are never ahead of you, or like they're not in front of you. People shit talking you only from behind or like from the sidelines. So it's an encouragement that like when you're putting yourself out there and all you're hearing is the negative stuff, like the people that you look up to, they're not the ones talking shit because they probably don't even know you're there. And if they do, they're trying to help you up, right? Like once I become successful, I can't wait to help the next generation of guys. Like I have two younger brothers. If they want to start an online business, I'll have learned all these lessons. Who knows what they'll want to do, but being able to teach them the X's and O's that I've picked up, the hard lessons, the money I wasted, all that stuff. And so just consuming as much content as I can from people that are doing it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big piece of it, right? They talk about, find the people who are where you're at and start replicating what they do. Now I'm curious, with these guys, are you mainly following them are you mainly trying to replicate their business sense, or do any part of like the personal habits have any part of like the personal habit side of things and the mindset shaping, have those kind of rubbed off on you?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think, because I've been in the self-development of myself for a long time, you start to hear commonalities. And what's really cool, I'm also a big fan of history, is we can look at a book that's like thousands of years old, like Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. He was talking about the same hard lessons that we have to deal with today. So like Ryan Holiday is like a modern champion of the Stoic school of philosophy. And the stuff he's sharing was shared thousands of years ago and hundreds of years ago. And there's like all these different generational versions of it. Even Alex Hormozy with the sales stuff, his mentors like Charlie Munger and stuff, like he's rebranding their content, but it's all the same innate lessons. And so I think a lot of the habits and mindset stuff, like a great book on habits for those that haven't read it, Atomic Habits, just understanding the consistency of the little things. Amazing book. Definitely will change your life if you read it. So that's a huge one. I think a lot of like the lifestyle stuff, I kind of have trial and errored my way to like what works really, really well for me from training, nutrition. And we can go into like the granularity there. I'm a nerd about it. But one of the big things I picked up from Adam and Arlen and have been more recently trying to build myself into is overcoming scarcity mindset and understanding the abundance that's in the world. I was raised in a very like frugal home. And I don't think I think frugality is a virtue, but I think when it becomes cheap, there's a difference there, right? Like you don't want to be wasteful, but you also need to, especially to make money, you have to spend money. Like it's an old phrase, like scared money don't make no money. You have to spend money to make money. And you also need to understand that there's so much out there. And then once you understand about like fractional reserve banking, like money is fake. It is all this kind of illusion. And so there's so much surplus out there. Be free and be giving, like invest in your business, invest in yourself, invest in the people around you. Don't be afraid to spend money on your friends or improving yourself. Make the investment in yourself and it will come back tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold across your life. So getting over the like fear of like, okay, I just started my new job. I need to start saving. But no, like the money that's coming in can be leveraged to bring me to the next step and the next stage of my life and my business. So knowing that everything I put out there will come back to me if it is paired with the positive intention. So I think the concept of abundance, getting over scarcity mindset, big pickup from like Arlen and Adam, and over the last 6 months, just kind of like unlearning those initial, I guess, limiting beliefs for myself.
Yeah, you really hit it on the nose there at the end. It's the unlearning is really what I've felt, and I don't know if you felt it. Did you feel the unlearning, like become more aware of it post college?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Cause I just graduated in May and it was like, I knew it. Like when I turned 20, something felt a little weird. And I think like you're starting to pick up like, oh, maybe I can do things a little differently. And then like now I'm about to turn 22. I've been out of college I'm not a big math guy, 5 or 6 months.
Neither am I.
And I'm like, oh wow. And within that 6 months found Adam and Arlen as well. So it's like interesting. Like now you really you realize you got to focus on the unlearning and kind of go back and start there. And that's the thing. A lot of people they feel it as, and I struggled with this, thinking of it as like restarting. Mm-hmm. And you're really not. It's instinctively right. You just got to get around the right environment to bring it out. Practice per se.
I definitely think there's like 2 major aspects. One is the time spent with yourself. And then 2 is surrounding yourself with others that support and perpetuate those positive things. So like, the time spent with self, like you need to write down, and like this is a huge part of like the program I have, like the reflective worksheets. Like you have to take the time to ask yourself hard questions, give yourself the space to think about it, and write down where you're at. What do I currently believe about X, Y, and Z? And it's fine. Like it is a judgment free, like just try to figure out where your baseline is and then figure out of those, if they're not serving you, how do we replace them with positive, like first unlearn them, like you said, and then replace them with positive or things that are going to serve our next chapter, our next purpose, whatever. And then the other thing is, like we talked about, surround yourself with people, like-minded people like yourself, people who have already built, like only consume the things that that are going to build you into the person you want to be. And then everything else is ancillary. It's wasted. So just like, you don't have to be mean. You don't have to like unfollow every person that you've ever known from high school, but like you can mute them. It won't send them a notification. It's no hard feelings, because even if they unfollowed you, like there's no skin off your back, right? Like if it doesn't serve them, I don't want that, like me to be in their feed. So if they're just reposting Sports Center, like get it out of your feed. Like instead, follow somebody else who's going to give you sales advice, who's going to give you investing tips, who's going to give you nutrition, stretching, like something that you're trying to improve in your life. We're already spending way too much time on our phone, so at least make it positive.
Right. Yeah. And now that's a good segue, because my next question on here is like, in your opinion, what is the power of social media?
I mean, that's a big question, but I think it is ultimately the knowledge and power, but it's accessible to everybody. And so when you understand what it is capable of, and then you choose to leverage it with intention, that's when it becomes powerful. So it is equally powerful if you don't, though, and somebody else is controlling it. Like week 2 of my course is creation and consumption, and understanding your consumption habits and why it's important. If you don't choose what your feed is consisted of, and you've just followed whatever has come in there, like this is viral content, or you're just scrolling the discovery page, whatever, the algorithm and at large, like there's a person and people behind it, they are deciding what you think about, how your mind is being developed and programmed. So understanding that it is possible to program your mind with what you consume, if you choose ahead of time what you consume, then you can build yourself into legitimately anything that you want to be. So like if you want to be a top 1% athlete, follow the best coaches in the world, the best trainers in the world, the best nutritionists. We have access, unprecedented access to that information, when in the past you would have had to be a 1% athlete to get trained by somebody at the Olympic facility. But now that guy's making TikToks and showing you how he's trained these athletes. And in the same way, all these people that have written these books that you may have never had access to, they're filming like selfie videos and saying like, these are the lessons. This is what I do on the day to day. So Phil, you're in, and then the secondary part is actual outreach, making the connection. Like sure. I would have never known you. You're in another city than me, another state. We just wouldn't have crossed paths in the past. But because of the power of social media, my network is theoretically limitless. It's only limited by my outreach and my ability to put myself out there. So being brave enough to send a DM, you can more or less contact anybody on earth. Like the fact that I have private access, like if I started a Twitter account, I could DM Elon Musk. Is he going to see it? Probably not. Is he going to respond to it? Probably not. But the fact is, I have the ability to touch his inbox, like touch his personal cell phone. And that is true for like pretty much every major figure in the world. That's crazy. Like that is a superpower.
Well, yeah, that's why you see it. There's no blueprint on how to get the attention of these guys. I mean, you see like, you see who sometimes these guys partner up with, or even the people that end up like making it. And you're just like, it came from just like one random shot in the dark, like thing. Right. But yeah, I also think that's like the power. That's why when they like, there's no one size fits all on how to do this. I think when you think of it that way, you can rely more on intention. And like you see when you talk to a lot of these guys, they're going to tell you the same thing. Like Cole Bennett's one of my favorites, just to kind of like shout him out, because he talks a lot on just like how his mindset is really the key to all this. He goes, I was just doing what I like to do with the people I like to do it with. I kept around good energy. I took risks, like he's like playing the game essentially, but like kept his head on. Like I just knew it was going to work. And it was the simplicity of he networked with Lil Uzi and sold out a show, right? Like, but social media helps with that. They're both Chicago based creators. Like the Chicago creator is the only similarity you should really need, or confidence you need to go into somebody's DMs, and like just explain what you're doing, because people like to relate to people,
100%. And I think you can even simplify, like you said, you need that first initial tie, but the tie can be very, very simple. Like for instance, when I'm doing cold outreach and trying to recruit for my program, it can even be as simple as like I see a comment on a post of something similar that we're interested in. Like that was, I think, how I reached out to you. Like, hey, I saw you commented on so-and-so's post. How long have you been into that? That is the connection tie. Most people aren't doing it. So most people are going to respond because it's like, hey, like this guy's actually reaching out. And if the DM doesn't get blocked by Instagram or like cut by spam, then that could be the connection point. You don't even have to be in the same city. For me, like I'm looking for, the next 3-6 months, both like for outreach to have people on my podcast and like platform, but also collaborate with and potentially be future employers. Like I can DM these guys, like the guys that I want to work with and or be like, I have the ability to like film a short video, send it to them, say like, hey, here's me, here's my story. Would you be willing to work with me? Would you be willing to come on my podcast? Would you be willing to hop on a quick call? So it's just about putting yourself out there. Will all of them respond? Certainly not. Will all of them be interested? Certainly not. But like some of them will. They're just dudes. They're just dudes doing the damn thing.
That's true. Cool. Now we got to get some of the more entertaining ones, I guess. What are 2 questions you have for the host?
Okay. So you said you started your social media marketing kind of stuff, your junior year of college, sophomore year?
Yeah, I've been in the social media marketing game probably like end of I was in college for 3 years, so really within the last year I've done the social media marketing, last 15 months probably. So yeah, sophomore year of college. And And now,
so I guess my follow up is then, what is the one thing, like the biggest mistake you've made? And then secondarily, what are you not doing now that you know you need to get you to the next level that you're going to plan to implement in the next like 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the first part of that would be my biggest mistake was, well, actually the answers go right together. So my biggest mistake was thinking I could scale to where I wanted to scale just by myself, and just being able to manage a certain amount and then everything on the back end. And then the biggest thing I'm not doing now, which I have a meeting on Sunday to address, see if it's worth the investment, is building that team, starting with outreach, and then based on kind of the volume, seeing what I need on the functionality standpoint. So it's like I have a couple interns that work with me. Like I've built that part of it a little bit. And then it's like skill set wise, I want people that are just focused in certain areas of social media to handle certain things so that I can handle the business relationships. Because I like the business relationships and the creative side, and being able to go to someone and be like, what's your problem? And I'm such an addicted problem solver that, great. Well, I've got the people. If you need more customers, great. We've got an outreach team. If you need more, like if you just need one-on-one consulting on how you think you should leverage social media to grow your business, great. We can do that. Just solve problems. All right? And that's just all, problem solving company.
Definitely. I mean, I think any business, like you'll be more successful when you help people, period. Like full stop. Yeah. You just how to find a way to help people, whether you're a trainer and you're getting them physically fit, whether you're helping them build their social media company, whether you're helping them become the best version of themselves, whether you're even just like giving book recommendations, like put stuff out there, put value, like help someone and it will come back to you. So that's awesome. And for that team build out, are you talking about like VA structure? And this is a little like granular, but like would this be like remote team build out or like also like locally based? VA structure, and my big thing holding me back from having VAs right now is I don't feel like I know how to manage them properly. So like these guys I have a call with tomorrow. To my understanding, they like help you. They even have a team of VAs, and then they provide the consulting on the front end of it, and then nice. Teach you how to manage that. Because once I have that down, I'll have an accurate reach of, okay, I have this. I can count on this many calls, and then book this many services, right? And then you kind of go through, and I just have a better. It's hard to see what your main. I don't know where the main focus kind of should be when I can't scale at the scale I've scaled based on my network very well, but next level, right? Next level is booking 300 calls a month and closing, 30, 40 of them. Right. Yeah, no, 100%. I feel that for sure. It's like the baby steps. Like this past week, I just outsourced my first amount of like editing for some of the shorts that I'm starting to put up. Like it was insane to be able to like just send the clips and like have them come back done when before it's been a one-man team, like creator, recording, editing, like literally everything. And then building the business and then doing the cold outreach. And so starting to take the less creative, less personality driven stuff and like outsourcing that and leveraging the capital that I do have from my full-time job. It feels really good. So I'm excited for that next step for you and also for myself. Like that's when stuff really gets to like grow and be like really powerful. Because
you're able to do it at that level for a consistent amount of time. And when we talk about like the game in general, right? Like that's the guys that end up becoming the 1% are just doing it right 99% of the time, right? Like they're just they have the team in place and then they're replicating. They're not, they're not raising this bar of like getting too caught up in success. They're just, they're constantly building, like you said, and using the small steps as motivation. I think, like you said earlier, with your podcast, just like piecing it together, seeing what new opportunities open up. Oh, maybe I should get a better mic now. There's more attention on this. Like you have to go through that, and the flip side of the content and social media side, like the negative in a sense, is there's a lot out there that just like make you think it's just going to happen right now. Like,
it's tough. Like they collectively, anyone that's putting stuff out there can definitely sell you on the dream. And it's important to have the dream. You have to have the vision. Like, it's kind of like an analogy I could use is like you're hiking to, like, you're trying to summit a mountain. Like, it's important to look up every once in a while and be like, there's the summit. But you also need to look at the fucking path and not trip. Like, you need to keep, like, your eyes need to be predominantly looking at the steps in front of you. But every once in a while, remind yourself, like, okay, like, think of the dream, like vision board, whatever it is. Like, I don't know how much you're into like the manifestation, visualization stuff, but like,
yeah,
pictures of Bali, like you're living the dream. Like, you have the life that you aspire towards. Okay, that's important, but you can't stare at a picture on a wall all day. You have to execute. You have to be able to look back down and be like, next step, next step, next step. That's where like the money is made, is in those next steps. But keeping the motivation, that internal consistency is like, okay, I know I'm moving closer to the target because I keep looking up, and there it is.
Mm-hmm. Ah, cool, man. Yeah, I think now I kind of want to. Okay, let's dive into this book a little bit. So first off, let's go into. We're gonna quote here 2 quotes, and they're from How to Win Friends and Influence People, because I know you've read it and you did a video on it. The first one is, it comes from, if you tell me how to get your feeling of importance, I'll tell you what you are. So my question on that is, how do you currently feel you get your feeling of importance?
That's a great question, and also a great quote. I think that I spend a lot of time right now alone, like very much in like an execution phase. And so I think that my sense of importance comes from how I judge my own performance. And this is like broad, right? So like, how am I performing in the gym? How do I look in the mirror? How consistently am I eating? And then also, like, did I do my best today? It's a reflection exercise that I try to do every single day. At night when I'm preparing for the next day, I ask myself, and this comes from Benjamin Franklin's, had a similar concept called the daily good. And every day in the morning, what good shall I do this day? Every day at night, what good did I do this day? And so I kind of adapted it, and I ask myself every single day, or try to, at the end of the day, write down, did I do my best today? Like a very simple question, but it's like pretty damning, right? Because it's very hard to say 100% of the time yes. A lot of the times you say no. And then if you do say no, it's okay. Then you just ask another question, why? And you write out some of those things. Oh, well, I didn't follow the diet that I wanted to. Oh, I skipped the gym because I was like sore and tired. I didn't do the extra like podcast upload. I didn't work enough on the content, whatever it is. So my sense of importance, I think, comes from me as my own critic. And I'm super hard on myself, but I also think that's why I will be successful, is I have a very high standard because I know what I'm capable of. So I think my sense of importance comes from like how happy and content I am with my output and effort.
Yeah, no, that's sick. Yeah, it's definitely a deep question, and that's why they say you should really go back and like reread this book a lot.
Yeah.
Now he also says, quote something in there where it says, I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm the greatest asset to which I possess. In with your opinion, how does that relate to today and like successful people? Would you say that's true among the successful people?
Was that quote from JP Morgan? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
It was Chase. Yeah. Yeah.
JP Morgan and Chase.
Yeah. I think so.
I think I remember reading that one. It's another really, really good
Charles
one.
Schwab.
Okay. I knew it was one of those
Charles
like
Schwab.
the finance banker guys, but
yeah.
No, I think that 100%. I think it's most applicable within the realm of sales, but being able to generate excitement, entertainment, and like a true sense of excitement and joy inside of somebody else is how you can win them to your side. Whether you're trying to sell them a product, whether you just want them to be an audience member. Like, I don't really want to be an influencer or like I don't really like the connotation of that word, but I do aspire to be a man who has influence, like an audience, and share the lessons that I've learned, help people live life better. Like, I've learned all these lessons. I'm going to continue to study and learn these lessons. I would do it if no one was paying me to do it. And I already was, and I already would continue to do it. And so if my audience remains at very little or zero, whoever's it's helping somebody. Or even when I die, somebody can go back and be like, holy shit, this dude was like putting all his life lessons up from the time he was 23. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, let me go back and listen. So I definitely think the ability to be engaging, exciting, and really get people like fired up about whatever the heck you're talking about is super important. And you look at it because of like the abundance thing, right? Like, there is an infinite amount of things you could put out content on. I was listening to a podcast earlier today. This guy, he like made a bunch of money on Amazon selling. He's like one of the internet marketing or internet sales kind of guys, kind of like a drop shipping thing. But his original like hustle was Lego videos on YouTube. Like, literally the most geeky, like niche thing, but there was a huge community of it, and he just relentlessly uploaded like his thing that he was passionate about. And think about that. Like, it's like a really weird niche. It's like kind of goofy, but being able to make people excited about what you're excited about, sharing your genuine excitement. I always say it like this, like, I would always want to meet people that are like on live, on fire and alive and passionate about something. I actually don't like care too much about what it is, but so many people are just going through the motions. Like, if you ask them about their job and they're like, it pays the bills, it's like, and they have nothing that they're working on outside of that. It's like, you're wasting your existence. God, the universe gave you something to be excited about, because I know something fires you up. Something like share that with the world. Like, and you see it in their eyes. Like, when they talk about it, like, it lights up like a fire, and it's like, wow, like, share more about that. I don't know anything about it, but tell me, you're so excited. I want to hear more about it. And so meeting people like that, I mean, it makes your interactions better. And then it also allows you as the business person, as the creator, to potentially have like a wild field of influence, because they see it's like, holy shit, this dude's like really about it. Whatever he's about, he's on fire. Like, you could be an e-com guy, you could be a social media marketing guy, you could be whatever it is. And there's a lot of different vehicles for the business, but like, if you're passionate about it, like, turn it on.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, like you said, I mean, just having, you feel it from people. And I've had people even tell me that, like, when I'm really on my game, and when I know it's been like a successful month, or I know like I've just been dialed in, like, people tell you. And like, in my sense, I try to really observe it, and I look at it as like, that's the universe telling you, right? Like, when I just get the DM or I get the text, like, I've started to really look at it like, yes, I appreciate that the person is like checking in on me, but like really absorbing it and being like, okay, well, that wasn't happening when you weren't dialed in like that. Right? Like, it took you putting out that piece of content in the first place to cause that reaction. So if you want to have that happen again, you need to do that more. And it's just like, so do that. But, and then like you said on the other, like, when people are like, oh, like my job, like, yes, because you're causing that negative reaction every time. You're going, oh, my job, every time you get in the car, drive 30 minutes, go make minimum wage or what the equivalent, and then come home and don't have energy to do what you want to do. Like, no shit. You know, but yeah. Now, is there any topics we haven't covered today, or that you're not usually asked about, that you'd say you definitely have an interest in?
I mean, we haven't gone too much into like training or nutrition, but I spend a ton of my time like thinking about that stuff. I try to train really hard. I think that stuff is like, maybe it was like my foray into the world of self-development in the first place. And so that could be one for sure.
Yeah, no, let's go there. Because I have a big opinion on and I kind of want to start with this question. Do you think, in a sense, do you think successful people go to the gym every day?
Yeah, I think it is. When you see these guys that become like unbelievably successful and they're really, really out of shape, think of I mean, some of these guys are getting pretty old, so I'm trying not to be too judgmental, but like Warren Buffett, right? Like, nobody looks at that guy like, oh, he's super fit, or Bill Gates, or even Elon Musk, right? Like, they look gross. And it was interesting. I don't know if you saw the podcast with Elon Musk recently when he went on Nelk. Pretty interesting interview, because like, you know, they're pretty much like normal people, like intelligence wise, and then he's like this genius. So the interesting dichotomy there. But he even mentioned it, and then that he's like, I need to start taking care of myself or I'll die, and I can't keep doing the work. And so it's interesting. Like, fitness doesn't become a priority until it's the only priority. Like, you get to
when did it become a priority for you?
I think probably I became interested in it early in high school, like freshman, sophomore year, just like wanting to be a better athlete, be better on the field, but also like I was just sick and tired of being good at the sport and being a good athlete. But then like we go to change in the locker room and it was just like sad, average body. Like getting over that internal insecurity was huge. Like just wanting to look like an athlete and feel proud of the body that I had. So that was probably when I started getting interested in it. And then just like voraciously consuming YouTube, like Christian Guzman, shout out him. One of the first guys on YouTube I ever started watching, but really inspiration. And then also as a business guy now I can like see as an entrepreneur that journey. But then it was just like, teach me about how to get fit. And a lot of those guys along the way. So that was probably when it became a priority. And then I think in college, when it all started to collide, was like, okay, you need to be a better athlete because it's the only way you're going to touch the field. You also are studying biomedical engineering. So like I'm getting to learn a lot more of the granularity about like nutrition, the endocrine system, like all your hormones, like the power of sleep, recovery, all the kind of auxiliary stuff. Because everybody starts with like, okay, how do I like move more weight in the gym? Like what's the best training to do? But if you're not taking care of all the other variables, hydrate, sleep, recover, eat properly, it's kind of all wasted, or at least could be more efficient.
Yeah. And now, do you have any tricks for how people can start to implement those like smaller habits you're talking about, like with the hydration, or maybe how they can like get better sleep, you know?
Yeah, I think the best hack for like waking up early and getting enough sleep is to go to bed earlier. It's like one that you don't want to hear because it's just like, how do I sleep max? Like, how do I get the most out of the day? And then what's the tip or trick? But sleeping is more of a simple one. Like you just have to set the early alarm enough days that you're waking up to it. Then you get tired by the time you need to go to bed. That's one. Like just make an agreement with yourself. Okay, I'm going to get a minimum of 7.5, 8.5 hours of sleep. And then just go. You have to consistently do it and set up your day so that you get done what you need to during the day. Hydrating, two things. One is immediately upon waking up, slam water, like a full glass, a full Nalgene, a full whatever. Like I have this like mason jar right here. Like it's like 40 ounces.
I'm big on that too.
Just like slam it right when you wake up. And that is close to, depending on how much you take down right when you wake up, it's going to be a good portion of your day's water, whether it's a fifth or a third of your daily amount of water right when you wake up. And you're also dehydrated after you sleep. So wake up and immediately consume water. And then secondarily, I like to chew like mint gum. It like makes you kind of like more thirsty a little bit, makes the water taste good. So that's another thing. And then also make sure you're replenishing your water. Ideally, you're using filtered water. Replenish it with like minerals. You can use some of the like electrolyte packets that are out there. Element's a good one. LMNT is a good company. They have like really clean ingredients and not a ton of like artificial sweeteners, actually no artificial sweeteners. So yeah, I think those would be two sleep and hydration hacks.
Interesting. Now, how can somebody who you'd say, because you're working, how do you, like, you're working a full-time job?
Yeah.
What are some specifics that you do as far as getting into the gym and, you know, having that energy, not hitting that wall?
For sure. I mean, I can kind of just do like a day in the life pretty quickly and then talk about the training specifically. So wake up every day, alarm at 7 a.m. and then I'm out and probably to the office. I bike to work. Like my office is like 3 minutes away. So I bike to work. I'm there by like 7:30, 7:45. And then that's like my day is kind of at work the rest of the day. Unfortunately, no windows, so no like natural daylight. Hoping that changes in the future. But I'm in the office till like noon, whatever. I'll take a lunch break. Sometimes I take client calls during that break. Come back, work till 4 or 5, and then that's when I go to the gym. And the thing about being consistent with training is taking away the decision. It's not, will I go to the gym today? It's just the next thing that you're doing. Like work ends and like, okay, I'm going to train. And so for me, I love training. I've built it into a thing that I enjoy. So it's actually like the highlight of my day. I get to like turn my brain off and just be in my body. It's almost like meditative in that sense. But it's not always going to start that way. It is certainly not going to start that way when you're just going to the gym. Like if you're going from zero to like building the habit, you have to, one, go slow. So instead of being like, I need to go every single day, you just need to go 2 or 3 times a week. Pick the days that it's like lowest friction. So like If going to, like, you're really tired after work, make one of those 3 days or two of those 3 days the weekend. Go to the weekend and then start building the habit, but make those non-negotiables. It's put it on your calendar, put it on the phone app, put it on Google Calendar. And it's like, all right, this is like my schedule for the day. It says at 1 p.m. I'm going to go. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to drag my ass there because it's like a meeting. I think a lot of the stuff about self-development, a way to frame it is like, if you told somebody else, if I said like, hey, Jack, we're going to record this podcast at 12 p.m. Well, I've made a promise to you. I'm going to show up because I promised somebody else. So make the promise to yourself and show up for yourself. If you don't, if you say, hey, Zach, we're going to the gym tomorrow at noon, and then noon rolls around the next day and you're tired, you're sitting on the couch, you're ripping TikToks, whatever, and you don't go, well, you're starting to create like an untrust, like a dissonance of yourself. I promised me I would go and I didn't show up. If I did that to you over and over and over again, you're not going to be my friend. You're not going to like enjoy hanging out with me. So you're not going to enjoy hanging out with yourself if you keep lying to yourself. So make a promise to yourself and treat it like a promise to someone else, and start small and then build it to the place where it's a habit outside of a choice. Atomic Habits is a great book. Another book on that, like Jocko Willink's Discipline Equals Freedom. Any of the stuff where like you're just removing the emotionality. It's not a decision. It's just part of what you do. Yeah.
No, I really liked what you said on the like make it act as if it's a promise to someone else, because then like Hormozi talks about this, but then also Matthew McConaughey was big on this, where he's like that other person, like if it's someone else, it's your like highest self. So like the better version of you shows up to that meeting. The better version of you shows up to the gym 5-6 days a week, like, and that, the better version of you reads 15 minutes a day. Like it's like little things. And that's helped me a lot because then you start to feel it. So when you do it consistently, you feel it. You can't just do this stuff for 3 days and feel like a different person, even though you will. And a lot of people still won't just do it for 3 days. Like you will feel better. It's technically impossible to not. But man, now how do you want to be remembered?
Ooh, that's a good one. I've done a lot of thinking about legacy in general. Hormozi's a big like anti-legacy guy. He doesn't believe in it. And he has a good point. He's like, one generation removed from you after you die, they might mention your name, like, oh, that grandfather guy. And then 2 generations, they just don't talk about you. The guys that we still talk about to this day ruled massive portions of Earth. Like, that's how you get remembered. Like, guys like Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan, like conquerors of nations. I don't realistically think that I'm going to build or create or conquer a nation state. So I've completely divorced myself from the idea of legacy. I think the only way legacy is really realized is if I can affect a change in someone and then their life carries on those lessons. And so I look at that. I aspire to be a father one day. And so everything I do right now is preparing me to be the best father I can to my kids. And if I can create good men and potentially women out of them, then that is legacy. Their life becomes my legacy. And so I think your legacy has to live on in the hearts and minds of other people. An amazing clip. I'm sure you might have seen it from like all this Kanye stuff. And I won't state my opinion on all this other than to share. Somebody asked, like, do you think you'll be remembered? Do you want to be remembered? I think it was the Lex Fridman interview. And he said, no.
I saw this.
And I think people are shocked by that because, they think of Kanye as an egomaniac and all these celebrities. Like, of course you want to be remembered, but he's like, I hope I'm forgotten. And then he went in to expound on that and he said, do we know who made the sidewalk? Do we know who made the street lamp? Do we know who made all these things that are like ubiquitous, amazing creations for humanity? No, we don't. But we know the legacy of the thing that they created. So hopefully I can create children of mine that carry my legacy, but also maybe build something that has that kind of ubiquity that is just something useful for humankind in the future. And that is like far enough out into the future that I don't know what it will look like yet. But I believe in myself enough to know that I could create something of that value.
Yeah, no, that's sick. And I think like just after hearing that, and then obviously knowing your background with the course and just like everything, it's like you kind of hit on this idea that you don't have to build a mountain while you're here, but you can create a path. And like you said, for people to not go through the same struggles, hey, I had this experience and these things reign true. It's ultimately their decision. to try it. But at the,
Yeah.
like, if your path leads and helps all these people along the way, then right, like you've kind of the mountain kind of builds itself in that aspect of it. You don't get so obsessed with, like you said, what it looks like. It's just at some point I can have children that I can inspire so that they can lead, you know, multiple people of their own. And yeah, I also liked what you said about just like now, like in this phase of your life, just in this creation kind of phase, you want to build something that transpires when you are to, you know, create again. And that's something Arlen hits on a lot. Like we're, as men, like we're just obsessed with this idea of like building and creating. And that's really where our value is seen, regardless of whether you think like that or not. That's how people are seeing. That's the lens they're seeing you through, is what is this guy building? What's he creating? Or who's he helping create, I guess, would be another aspect of it. But really, so that's reigned true on me in the last 6 months a lot. It's like it helps finding these things out and becoming knowledgeable about this stuff we're talking about. I think in a sense it adds motivation. It's like a kind of make
it's a drug. It's literally a drug. Like once you unlock this world, your life is just so, it can be so vibrant if you just lean into this stuff. Like I currently right now I work a regular engineer day job, right? Like I could look at my life and be like, there's a lot of mundane, like the day to day, it's like mundane and colorless and boring and repetitive. But I also get to look at like, okay, every free hour I get, I'm spending building my future. I'm building the next thing. Like the free hour I get for lunch, I'm booking client calls. I'm helping people there. Like when I get home, I'm like editing content, writing stuff, putting Instagram out there. I don't know. It's just like, it's so exciting, and having that, like that building for something in the future and being focused on loving the process. Because I know that when I finally do like end up stepping away from my job and I get to the 10K a month, I get to the 20K a month, the 30K a month, 50K a month, like those goalposts aren't going to feel as good as the journey did and the lessons along the way and the people I meet through the process. Like I look at a huge part of this is like, I'm also finding the people that are going to be part of the next chapter of my life, whether that's romantic interests or collaborators and other dudes doing the same thing. Like I'm building alongside people and we just don't know each other yet. So like finding those people is another super exciting part of the journey for me too.
Cool, man. Yeah, sweet. Dude, I think we've pretty much covered everything I've kind of got. Is there anything you kind of want to add? Then you kind of go in and just plug yourself in as far as where we can find you.
Yeah, I don't think I don't want to sully the episode with any more ranting. I definitely can be kind of like long-winded sometimes.
You're good.
So I think any final notes for the audience. I think find something that you're excited about and try it. Like simple as that. Something that you're passionate about. Start putting it out there. Challenge yourself to post 30 YouTube videos in 30 days or 30 Instagram stories in 30 days. Like just put yourself out there and you have no idea the amazing effect it'll have on one person or thousands. So put yourself out there and see what you can make of it. And then where you can find me, you can follow myself on Instagram at ZDSCHENKEN. And then if you want to follow along with the program and my podcast specifically, my podcast is on Apple Pod, Spotify, and YouTube at the Vitruvian Man podcast. You can just search that name and it should be able to come up on all those platforms, or my name. And then the actual @ for the Instagram is at Vitruvian Gentleman. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now, hoping to build out a Twitter presence in the next 3 months or so. TBD. I just think a lot of people on Twitter are winning and I want to be a part of that.
Interesting.
I just seem like a lot of sick people out there, like just to connect with. So Twitter is on the horizon, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. And not a lot of people are going to watch the end of this, but to anyone watching it, if you want to join our exclusive community, hit the link below this video. Just DM me the word action and we will get started on how you can leverage social media to grow your brand and your life beyond your wildest belief. Thank you, everybody.
And if he fails, at least fails while daring greater, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.